Okay, and test this out. Okay. Cool. All right, so we are on. We have our glasses ready. Science Yoga Sundays. All right, so I'm going to say, hi, everyone. Feel free to say hi in this chat box for us. Okay, cool. So we'll give people about a minute or two to log on, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we should have some elevator music. Okay. All right, I got some 07.
What did you do in Turkey today?
Today's Sunday, right? Yeah, so
Science Yoga Sunday.
That's right. It's Science Yoga Sunday. You know what? We went to the museum. We went to a museum where there were all these relics from basically the Mesopotamian civilization, which is considered the first civilization to ever exist, which is on certain parts of Turkey, Iran, and I forget the third country, but this general region had a civilization from 12,000 years ago, and we're able to see very advanced tools like the stone with the sharp edges and the ridges, and bowls and relics. Like, the civilization seemed to really revere leopards, so there was a lot of these reliefs with leopards on it.
Cool.
They were just digging the leopard print, you know?
It was cool for them before it was cool.
Yeah, or hot, because it's really hot temperature-wise. All right, so yeah, well, why don't we just get started then? I'm gonna turn down the music, fade it out. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the first ever Science Yoga Sunday chat.
Woohoo!
This is pretty epic. This has been, wow, this has been a long time in the making. So thank you to all of you guys that are chiming in to watch, whether it's live or if it's the replay. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the teal green chat box below the window. and just share where you're from and say what's up. So just so you guys know, my name is Julie. I'm Julie Tran, and I'm broadcasting from Ankara, Turkey, and I'm here with Dr. Austin.
Hi.
Who's in San Diego. Say what's up, Austin.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So you guys are in the right place if you're a teacher or if you're a student, regardless how long you've been teaching or practicing. Even if you're someone that's curious about yoga and you want to learn more about your body, this is a perfect place to geek out on anatomy knowledge. So we're going to share the scientific benefits of yoga and help you understand yourself just a little bit more. So today you're going to learn, you're going to hear about the background on me and Dr. Austin and our experience with yoga, and posture, and functional movement in the real world. And I'm going to basically interview Austin here on several poses. So Austin, you want to share with them briefly like what we're going to cover today?
Yeah. So we're gonna start with some basics about like the whole holds, down dog, and then I just want to I have like a couple just general tips that you can take with you and really just apply those to any yoga pose, and not just any yoga pose, any pose on the outside world too. And then we'll start getting into more intermediate stuff like triangle and maybe, and then kind of talking to get stumbling over my words already. Then we're gonna get into some inversions, and we'll start off small like dolphin headstands, and then maybe briefly talk about handstands. And then with all of these poses, I just want to really reinforce why it's so important to, as Julie said earlier, not check your yoga at the door, because you know you're in your yoga class to learn about your body, right? And we should take that knowledge with us as we lead our everyday lives.
Sweet. And I know it's Sunday, so a lot of our viewers might be a little hungover, and it's all good. So you guys don't worry about it. Science Yoga Sundays is really meant to be a laid back, comfortable space for you to geek out on yoga. So feel free to watch in your PJs, and we'll get this going. So I want to share with you guys my own story in case you've never met me before. And just so you know, I've been teaching yoga for about 5 years, and I've been practicing yoga on and off for a decade. And I was super clumsy. I have to be honest. As I push my glasses up my nose, I was super clumsy. I couldn't touch my toes. I didn't really understand my body, and just recently, 3 months ago, I just realized that my left toe is longer than my right. So just, you know, if it takes me this long to realize things about my body, then you guys may take the same amount, shorter or longer, to get to know your body. So have fun with it. You know, even if you find out that your left toe is longer than your right, you know? And there were a lot of things during the process of practicing yoga and teaching it that I still didn't quite understand. And it took me probably until the last 2 years to understand that there's a lot of anatomy going on. There's a lot of physiology, and there's a lot of things that happen in the real world, like how we walk, how we sit, how that's yoga too. So I'm just really excited to interview amazing people like Austin, who has a background in chiropractic. So not only does she have a doctorate in chiropractic, she's about to reach completion of chiropractic diplomate. I hope I'm saying that right. Chiropractic diplomate, which is a badass name for having a specialty in rehabilitative exercise. right? So it's correcting muscle imbalances, helping patients post-surgery, and helping people with bad scoliosis and other things. So you guys want to really hear what Austin has to share with their expertise. So I'm going to pass it over to Austin so you can share your story with everyone.
Awesome. Yay! Thank you very much, Julie. Yeah, that was a wonderful intro. So I have only been a yoga instructor for about 2 years, but I've been practicing on and off for probably about 5, I'd say. But I have been in the chiropractic world and physical therapy world studying and learning about the body for almost close to a decade now. And so it's one of my passions. The human body is weird and amazing, and I love it. All right. Any other intro stuff?
I think it's pretty awesome. Well, I also wanted to share with everyone how we met, because I mean it was pretty special. So Austin came to my yoga retreat in Tulum, Mexico through our very dear friend Taylor. So shout out to Taylor for connecting us. And I mean, when I met Austin, her heart is it's like full of gold. Like she's able to talk to anyone that was walking around us, and it was just this friendly nature that made me feel really comfortable and excited, because we hadn't really met until we were at the beach in Tulum at the retreat. And it was really cool when we had, well, I was leading a workshop portion in the middle of the retreat, and I could tell that Austin was very on top of the integrity of, you know, just the anatomy and the structure when I was trying to describe a pose. And, you know, that combined with her good vibes had me think about her first when planning this Science Yoga Sundays. I was like, you know what, Austin would be the perfect person to jive with and geek out for this thing. So I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I'm so happy that we can kick off a Science Yoga Sundays together.
So for those of you guys watching, you can totally share this webinar or live virtual course with your friends that would be interested in yoga. And we'll have a section for Q&A at the end. So if you have questions, we may address it during the course or at the end. So, all right. So now let's go into the meat and potatoes, or if you're a vegetarian, just the potatoes of today's course, which is proper form on and off the mat. So we're going to dive into 3 of the most common poses taught in a yoga class. One's going to be for all levels, one will be a little more advanced, and then the third is going to be really advanced as we address inversion. So right now, Austin's going to share her screen so you can see pictures of these poses. And that is a Turkish prayer call happening right now.
Whoops. Start at the beginning. All right. Let's begin. So I just wanted to go over a couple basic tips. Here I have my beautiful coworker, Becca, and she's in 2 different forward folds. I wanted to first begin talking about hinging at the hips. It's going to be most common in forward fold, but you can apply this to like almost any hamstring stretch. So here you can see she's kind of rounding at her low back. What that's going to do is you're still going to feel a stretch. And a lot of the times people, especially with low back pain, like doing this because they're stretching their low back. What many people don't realize is that now you're not getting that hamstring stretch, and low back pain often can come from tight hamstrings. So now we're stressing the low back, and if you happen to have disc issues or anything like that, it's going to actually exacerbate the issue a little bit. So to correct it, when you're getting into your forward fold, you want to almost push your hips back to the wall behind you. Almost kind of like if you're in a down dog, you're lifting your hips up to the ceiling. And then that's going to allow you to kind of push your chest closer to your thighs, straightening out your low back and giving your hamstrings a much deeper stretch. And then while we're speaking about the low back, another really important thing to keep in mind, again, you can apply this to a whole bunch of poses, is keeping your hips level. So here I have Becca in a bird dog because this is where I see this most often. People will want to raise the hip up that is lifting the leg because they want that nice, beautiful lift in the leg. And while it does look gorgeous, she's now compromising her low back. So again, if you are at risk for any sort of disc issues or you have sciatica or really any low back pain, this is going to, again, create some sort of muscle imbalance and is probably going to end up creating a little bit more pain in your body. Here we have her nice and evened out. The leg isn't as high, but that's okay because believe it or not, more muscles are actually being recruited in the glute area, in the low back area, and even now in the shoulder area. So you're going to have a nice longer pose. You're going to have better muscle development off the mat. And yeah.
Hey, Austin, I had a quick question because
Yes.
in the classes that I've taught, I also use the cue hip squared or square your hips. And I actually realized that when I first started as a student, I didn't know what that meant because I was just clumsy as fuck. So, oh yeah, you guys want to know that we may drop cuss words from time to time during Science Yoga Sundays. But yeah, so I in case there are people watching that may not know what it means to square their hips, or in case we have teachers watching that would love to learn how to describe in class what does it mean to square your hips. Yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain on that.
Yes. So this is where I love really encouraging my students to look in the mirror and just really kind of do a quick body scan visually. And if you had like a 2x4 and you set that over your hips, you would want that to be in one nice straight plane. It's going to end up engaging your abdominals more, so you'll actually probably feel more muscle engagement if you lower that hip down a little bit. Yeah, I really think looking in the mirror and most everyone is always going to have that hip up higher. So telling them to lower the hip down, to straighten it out, square the hips in an even plane, and then if they're able to check themselves out in the mirror. They'll be able to kind of visually put together what they're currently feeling in their body, and that's going to kind of create that mind-body connection.
So you're saying that we should check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, next pose, everyone's favorite, down dog. Down dog is wonderful. It is so good for so many things. It helps with it helps with thoracic mobility. Thoracic meaning the part of your spine that's connected to where your rib cage is. That can get so stiff being in our forward posture all day, being at a computer, being texting, even as a chiropractor and a yoga teacher doing assists on the floor. I feel like I'm constantly bent over, and I feel like probably everybody listening right now can agree that right in between the shoulder blades is a common area of discomfort. So down dog can help with that. It's, again, helping with your hamstrings. You're lifting your hips up and you're getting that deep, deep stretch. And then it's great for stretching out your calves too, which can often be a stagnant place on people. I don't know who here has ever gotten a deep tissue calf massage, but I can tell you it is quite an exhausting experience. So this is going to help with that. It's going to help improve that circulation. Something that I hear from a lot of patients is they don't like to go into down dog. They'll often skip it and just go into child's pose because of wrist pain. And something to maybe help out with that a little bit is, so people's tendency, if you can see my arrow right here, is to push into the mat through the heel of their palm. We want to distribute the weight a little bit more evenly. So I want you to imagine next time you're in down dog, take the two center, like the center of both of your hands, the spot right in the center of your palm. And I want you to imagine that that is the center of your weight distribution. So you have your big, strong base, your fingers are spread wide. And then from that center point in your palm, you're spiraling outwards. So it's going to start engaging your wrists. It's going to engage your elbows all the way up to your shoulders. And yeah, help distribute that weight a little bit more evenly, so you're not just pressing and hyperextending your wrist. So here we have Becca again. And we have her in a couple different down dogs. So here's our preview. Here she is in just beautiful form. Her biceps are near her ears. Her back is nice and straight. And her hips are being lifted. So she's in this lovely V. Something that I see people do quite often is, again, we're talking about that rounding at the low back. This is now, again, compromising your low back. Again, if you have any disc issues or low back pain, this might exacerbate the problem. Anyone with a stiff upper back tends to want to round because the stretch might be too much. But in that case, I would urge you to keep your knees bent like this. So your lower half of your body will be like this, while your upper half of your body now has a little bit more room and space to push your chest down towards the mat, stretching out your thoracic spine, your rib cage, giving you a little bit more shoulder mobility. And then her heels, of course, being pressed down into the mat to engage the calves and give a good stretch there. The last thing that I see very commonly is, so she's here, she's in this nice V position, but her chest is, or sorry, her chin is being tucked into her chest a little bit. So people with upper back tension and upper back pain tend to want to stretch this area out to help with the pain reduction. And it's actually, we need to be doing the opposite. We actually need to be strengthening this area because it is the area that's overstretched all day long. So so I would actually encourage everyone to keep a neutral neck like this. Like this. I was just pointing at the screen with my finger and I realized that you guys couldn't see that. Instead of having the chipmunks like that.
I just wanted to chime in because I don't know if any of you guys practice Ashtanga or you've taken an Ashtanga class where you're given the cue to gaze at your chest or gaze at your navel, which can sometimes cause your chin to want to tuck to the chest. And like Austin was saying, if we spend most of our day looking down at a computer or looking down at the phone, that means we're over exercising that. And it just makes sense to be able to keep that cervical spine just neutral so that you don't overextend it even more. Because I myself, I've got a slight herniation in my C5 and C6, which is the labels of a whole entire vertebral spine. There's labels for each one, and C is like the cervical part. So I think it's from whiplash. So this picture right here definitely shows what I don't want to do, or what people shouldn't do if they've got similar things going on.
Yeah, and on that note, the C5, C6, C6, C7, and then all the way down at the low back at L4, L5, those are by far the most common places to have disc herniations because of everything that we've been talking about today. So that was, yeah, good point to bring up. Should we go move on to the next pose?
Yeah, so the second pose is, it's also all levels, but it can be pretty advanced too, as simple as the pose itself seems. But it's triangle pose. It's also known as Trikonasana. So Austin, can you share what the benefits are with triangle, and let's go through the real life application, all that good stuff.
Triangle is, I honestly feel like triangle can be like a very complex pose. You're strengthening while you're also stretching, and I've honestly broken a sweat, being in a triangle for a while. So this is a good one. And it's one that I often see. You're still getting a good stretch doing it, incorrectly, but really making sure that you have proper form is going to increase all of the benefits that we're going to talk about. So life off the mat, it's going to help strengthen all of the really deep supporting muscles of your spine, which is going to end up relaxing all of the superficial muscles. So people who have very, very tight erectors, and when I say erectors, I mean the muscles that travel on either side of your spine, and you'll kind of see them. They'll make like the little dip in your spine. When those are really, really tight, it's because they're compensating for weaker, deeper muscles. So triangle is going to help with that muscle imbalance. Lifting your arm up is going to help get your intercostals a little bit, which is going to help balancing out your rib cage. It's going to stretch out your quadratus lumborum, which is the main muscle I think of when I think of triangle. And ironically, it's actually not shown in my picture here, but it's because it would be underneath where these obliques are. So it would be attached to this lower spine right here where my mouse is right now. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the quadratus lumborum. And the quadratus lumborum, it's connected to your, pretend this woman is turned around, pretend that we're looking at her back right now. But the quadratus lumborum is connected to your lower ribs, all of your lumbar spine, which is the spine that's below your rib cage, and then it's connected to the top of your pelvis. So this muscle is super thick, and it's connecting to all of these different parts of your body. So when this gets tight, it can cause anything from mid back pain, low back pain, hip pain. It can get confused with kidney pain. This muscle, when super tight or having any issues, can be very problematic. So helping release this muscle is going to ease low back pain. It could maybe help with sciatic pain. It could do a whole bunch of stuff for us. So main muscle groups, we are looking at your abdominals, and that is your abdominis rectus, which is going to be your six-pack muscles, your obliques, which give you that nice V. Again, your quadratus lumborum, which is going to be on your back side of your lower spine. Diaphragm, which is on the top part of your core, and then your pelvic floor. And I just wanted to put the diaphragm and pelvic floor in there just to kind of reiterate that when we say core, we're not just talking about the abdominals. Your core, think of your core as a cylinder in that part of your body, and you're really working 360 degrees. By working your core, it's going to help, like I said earlier, help with your erectors. You're now strengthening your trapezius and you're getting your lats into the mix. You're stretching out your IT band and your TFL. TFL is not a very big muscle, but it's on the side of your hip, kind of right before your IT band starts. And I can tell you from massaging people that oftentimes I'll go over a trigger point on your tensor fascia lata, and people will tell me that I'm on a bone because it gets so hard. And I'm like, nope, wait till it releases. I promise you it's a muscle. It's helping focus on your sartorius, which again is not a very big muscle, but it is one of the only muscles that goes diagonal across your anterior thigh. And so when the sartorius gets tight or when the sartorius is dysfunctional, it can cause hip rotations and or maybe even knee pain, depending on where the issue is. And then it's getting all your nice booty muscles too. So what each of these is doing, I kind of touched on this earlier, but you're stretching and lengthening out your body, which is going to end up easing pain, your low back. It's going to help hip mobility and shoulder mobility, and going to help stretch and strengthen your core, which, you know, is just, it's good for the way you look. It's good for digestion. It makes you feel good. And yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, about all of that, honestly. Like this is pretty cool to be learning so much about a pose that looks so simple. There's a lot of shit going on with triangle.
There is. And I know I feel like I kind of word vomited a bunch of information at you right now. So if anyone listening has any questions, please feel free to ask. Or if you need clarification for anything that I just said, please ask. All right, so I have her here in the way I see triangle often done in class. And again, it's because people they often want to just go to full expression, even if their body might not be ready for full expression. And the way to kind of cheat that is to come forward. As you can see, her hips aren't lined up. In triangle, it's really, really great to just go up against a wall for the first time, because you want your hips and your shoulders to be in the same plane. So look at the difference between that. And by coming back like that, she's now really, really, really getting the side of her body. She's really, really focusing now on this deep, deep, deep side body stretch. She's getting more of her TFL, more of an IT band stretch, more of a peroneal stretch. Because then the second she comes forward, all of this is now relaxed. You can see her thigh is now internally rotated, which means her sartorius is not engaged anymore, which is that diagonal muscle that we were talking about. Core isn't being engaged and used anymore. Really, the only benefit to where she is right now is you're getting kind of a good inner thigh stretch here, but you're still compromising your low back and causing unneeded stress kind of on that lower spine. Also,
sorry to interrupt, but just looking at those photographs, it makes me think about how some people might not want to use yoga blocks to try and force the quote-unquote full expression, which means someone that's wanting to touch their hand all the way to the ground just to be able to feel like their hands touching the ground. what's your take on people using yoga blocks or not using yoga blocks for this?
Use your props. That's what they're there for. And that's a great point. I almost wish I could Photoshop really quick a block right here. Yeah, if you are working on this, the stretching and the strengthening is too intense in this pose, because I can tell you from personal experience, holding this pose for a while, even if a while is just like, 5 breaths, it gets tiresome. So grab a yoga block, please, and put it right there, right in front of your foot. Or if you want to open up the pose a little bit more, you can go behind your foot. But that's going to help open up your shoulders and your chest. And now you have something to press down into, which is going to allow your top arm to open up a little bit wider. Pretend there's a block right there. It actually kind of looks like Becca's pretending there's a block right there.
Yeah, it looks like she's holding it.
I probably had her in this pose for a while. I was like, wait, one more, wait, one more. So yeah, any questions about triangle or anything, Julie, that you can think of that we haven't really touched on?
No, I think that was super thorough, especially with the suggestion to go against the wall, so that way someone could get a sense of how it feels to have the whole entire backside of the body feel that it's along one plane. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's a wonderful exercise. It's the same idea as looking at your hips in the mirror. You're just getting that mind-body connection so that you know what to feel and what to look for when you don't have the mirror, when you don't have the wall.
Oh, I wanted to also address that there's different ways that triangle is expressed. You might see pictures of people practicing Ashtanga yoga where they're grabbing their 2 peace fingers, the index and the middle finger, with the thumb around their big toe. And you might see this kind of expression where her bottom hand is relatively close to the shin. So whatever type of yoga you guys are studying or teaching, just remember to take what works and leave what doesn't in your practice. So it's really an encouragement for you to experiment with yourself and see how all of these tips can apply to you.
Perfect. Exactly. When you and I were chatting early, like when we were deciding what we wanted to talk about, you had kind of mentioned hypermobility. The slide says hypermobility and triangle, but really everything in here is relevant to any pose. So this is just hypermobility in yoga is really what this title should say. And hypermobility can mean different things to different people. There are just people who are naturally flexible, and maybe that's because they grew up being a dancer, grew up being a gymnast from a very young age, and that's just how their body developed. Or we have people who have connective tissue disorders like Marfan syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos, or those are the 2 main ones that come to mind. But that's where their ligaments all throughout their body are just inherently extra elastic. So they can just naturally bend in crazy. Those are the people that you see on YouTube who might not be double jointed, but can, wrap their elbow around their body or step through their arms or do all those crazy cool tricks, contortionists. So it's important when we're talking about this to know if hypermobility applies to you, which one is it? So, and then also, what are your goals? From a doctor's point of view, from a functional medicine point of view, if you're hypermobile, my discipline would probably recommend that you work more on the strengthening because you already have the stretching down. But I can also speak from well, I used to be considered hypermobile. Let's see. I think I've gotten my balance in a little bit, but from a previously hypermobile person, even though others would consider me hypermobile, I would still feel tight and I would still want that stretch. So there are different things that you can do to help with that. One thing that I read about recently that I hadn't ever really heard about was called gapping, like gapping your joints in the poses. And that just had to do with taking like a rolled up towel, and it could be anything from a washcloth to a beach towel, depending on how much space you needed. But for instance, if you were in a forward fold, you go up really quick, you would put the towel in between your hips, or sorry, in between your hip and your torso, so as to kind of create extra space for your body to fold over, which would end up increasing the hamstring stretch on the back. And I thought that was a cool little trick. But for stuff like triangle, then I would say focus more on the strengthening portion and trying to recruit more muscle fibers rather than stretching. And then it's always really, really important to remember that anything painful, especially a sharp pain, normally indicates a dysfunction, and that could be anything from a pulled muscle, which you wouldn't want to keep overstretching. It could be a maybe a misalignment in a joint, in which case go see your chiropractor. Hey. But then you generally tend to want to go to strengthening and supporting that area instead of stretching it and relaxing it even more. Sorry, I kind of feel like I went off on a little tangent there, but yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when we want to geek out. I mean, geeking out is going to happen. So why don't we go to the third and last pose then? We have some time to go over inversion or preparing for inversion. So can't think of any other pose but like dolphin.
Woohoo!
What?
So dolphin, just like down dog, you're engaging a whole bunch of muscles, and it's really awesome for helping prepare the upper body to get into these inversions. It's now recruiting your lats. Your lats are being recruited in other poses, but it's now recruiting, I think, more of like the latissimus muscle belly and all of the shoulder girdle muscles, the serratus. It's really just helping engage and recruit those extra muscle fibers to prepare you for liftoff. So, dolphin, keys to remember when you're getting into this pose, just like in down dog, you want a strong, long torso. You're lifting your hips up because you're starting to engage. Like, you want your strong core, but you also want to still be able to breathe, and so you need that length and that space. You are not putting weight on your neck. So the crown of your head might be on the floor, but you are by no means resting on your skull, which I'm sure most of you know, but it never hurts to just remind people of that. So your traps are getting recruited. Well, we went through those already, but here we go. So you're starting to get your deltoids, and you're getting your anterior deltoids, your mid, your posterior, so it's surrounding your entire shoulder cuff. You're toning your arms. This is helping open your shoulders because you're engaging all of the muscles like 360 degrees around your body. You're getting your chest in there. You're getting your upper traps and your shoulders. Yeah. Anything to add, Julie?
I just remember when I first attempted dolphin and my shoulders were on fire. My upper back, I mean, damn. I mean, talk about a way to burn, you know? I love dolphin.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think that went through that a lot faster than I was expecting to. I don't know how much I have left to add.
No worries. I think we're actually on track with the timing. So, I mean, that was a lot of great information. I think that we can find some cool links to send to the viewers later on if they want to look at these diagrams or something. And
If
yeah,
anyone wants to message me, I will totally share all of these slides with anybody who wants them. There's a couple little tidbits of information we didn't go over.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you guys want to review the slides and be able to read it on your own time, we can definitely send you that, because there's never too much geekiness we can be, because all that content was really educational. I think it was really valuable, and I learned a couple things that I can apply to my next practice, including the way that I'm sitting at this computer. Before we wrap this up, Austin, can you just briefly recap the main takeaways from the 3 poses that you shared?
Yes. Wait, should I share the pictures again?
No, you don't have to, so people can see your awesome face with the glasses, because we got these glasses going on.
I pushed them up too far. Okay. Yeah, so takeaways. Tips to apply to almost any yoga pose. Hinge at your hips. Don't round at your low back too much. Neutral neck. And keep your hips square. If you're not 100% in a pose, there is no shame at checking yourself out in the mirror and just doing a quick body scan, making sure that where you feel like your body is in space is in fact where it actually is in space. Triangle pose, good for stretching and strengthening your whole core. Try it up against a wall. Even if it's not your first time doing triangle, still try it up against a wall. It is a good pose to do. And dolphin, a wonderful beginning to your inversions. It's going to help with your posture. It's going to improve focus and concentration. And it's a great shoulder workout.
Awesome. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
So for any of you guys that are in San Diego or in Southern California, Austin teaches Parhatha and also does chiropractic work at the Wellness Lounge in SD, and we can share that link with you as well. But if you are all over the internets and you are on Instagram, you can click the button that is below our video. So it will take you to Austin's Instagram account, which is the_beauty_doc. And it's a pretty nice feed to follow. There's some funny memes about anatomy. There's some inspirational quotes. It's beautifully curated. I say with my pinky up.
Once I get my website all started, it's going to really be about just like why feeling beautiful is going to make you beautiful, and how to make yourself feel beautiful is through diet, nutrition, exercise, and chiropractic.
Awesome. Very, very cool. So you guys be sure to follow her on Instagram and double tap all the pictures. So yeah. So I mean, this is really cool. This was our first Science Yoga Sunday, and we're always looking to make this better and better and provide as much value as possible to you guys all across the world. So thank you guys for watching, and thanks for watching the replay. And thank you, Austin, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to geek out with me. And
Thank you so much for having me, Julie. My pleasure.
So if you guys have feedback, comments, or questions on things you'd like to see for the next Science Yoga Sunday, just reply back to the next email or shoot me an email and let me know. We're really excited to really get this going. So you guys have an awesome day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and peace out.
Peace out.